The exhibition is a survey of graphic design practice, looking at projects from the last 10 or 12 years.
One of the hardest things about doing a graphic design exhibition today is the pluralistic nature of the field. It's multiplied in many different directions.
Everywhere you look, from the side of a bus to your telephone bill, everything has been touched by a graphic designer.
So the very definition of graphic design is being stretched to its limits. For Ellen and I, we wanted to frame the exhibition in terms of like the formats and the genres that the general public may be most familiar with graphic design in, and then take them from that point into what's happening with more experimental work in each of those areas.
We hit upon the idea of production, and production is a word that refers to how things are made, and it refers to the labor of design, and it refers to the idea of creating something, of being a producer in an executive sense, of being a planner and a leader. And we're looking at what people are doing in design across the fields of magazines and books and typography and poster design and information graphics, and looking at the idea of the designer as someone who is taking a range of tools and using them to create new content, to bring something into the world. And that's an impulse that is common across all these fields and is kind of a driving energy among young designers today, really all over the world.
All of this really has its roots in the 1980s, and for two different reasons. One technological reason is the introduction of the personal computer, in particular the Macintosh. Before that, you would rely on very expensive equipment handled by different kinds of operators. This one really empowered designers, and graphic designers in particular, to take control over elements of production, which also terrified them because they had not really been trained to do that. The industry had developed at that point into a split between what you might call the white-collar world of design direction and conception, the creative elements, and then the photomechanical reproductive elements. So it created this blue-collar, white-collar schism in the field. Because this device integrates all of that functionality back into one place, you're both creating and at the same time producing. But there was also a conceptual shift. And this is, the graphic design profession really emerged as a profession in the United States in the post-war period. And there was a high level of professionalization that happened in the 60s and the 1970s. By the 1980s, all of this had become inculcated in schools and programs where you could produce professional designers. And a lot of designers were not satisfied with the kind of service demand, the service nature of the industry. Like, I need a logo, it needs to be this color, it needs to be this size. They really wanted to have and operate more like artists. And so they wanted that kind of independence and freedom. What this show does is pick up the pieces from those two major challenges to the profession, the theoretical and the sort of technological, and sees what happens after that time period.
And so the designers are becoming publishers, they're becoming filmmakers, they're becoming entrepreneurs, they're making their own products, they're taking up these tools, whether they're software or hardware or the intellectual tools of the designer, the creative ability of the designer, and using them to make their own stuff, to do something. One of the themes running through the show is the idea of pragmatics. Design is a practical enterprise. Design is ultimately about doing things in the world. It's not primarily intellectual, it's not primarily theoretical. It is really a form of action. And this exhibition, the people in the exhibition, really celebrate that aspect of design as doing something.